I was sitting at my desk scrolling through my phone during a rare lull in the workday when a notification popped up. One simple text, but man, it hit like a sucker punch. It was from Jake. Now, Jake and I, we've been best friends forever. Like the kind of guys who know each other's Starbucks order before the words even come out. The we're practically brothers type. So yeah, getting a message from him was usually no big deal. But this time, the words on my screen stopped me cold. "Hey man, interview went well. Looks like I'm going for the lead dev role." I blinked, reread, frowned, then stared at the phone like it was some kind of cryptic riddle. Did I just read that right? Lead dev role? That role? The job I'd been grinding toward for months, the one I told Jake about 100 times over? The dream position at our startup I'd almost sketched out in mental milestones, rehearsed my pitch for, and yeah, obsessed over more than was probably healthy. Jake just casually dropped a bomb that he had interviewed for it, and now he was about to snag it. I stared at the screen like I'd been smacked with a cold fish. How does your best friend end up stealing your dream job right from under your nose? It felt wrong. Surreal, honestly. But also painfully real. I let out this weird, almost laugh snort thing that didn't help my cogitation. I mean, I've always thought Jake's kind of ambitious, but us competing for the same job? That wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this. The whole scene in my head rewound. Jake and me side by side, plotting the future, talking about the next big step. I thought we were rooting for each other. I thought I was his guy. But apparently I was just one guy, and now there were two. I had to figure out how we got here before the next chapter closed on me. Jake and I have known each other since we were kids, like practically from the sandbox to Seattle's startup scene. Growing up, we were inseparable. The kind of friendship where we finish each other's sentences, share the same weird sense of humor, and even bicker like an old married couple. But through all that, it felt like we were on the same team, always had each other's backs. So when I landed this gig at the startup and the lead developer role opened up, I was pumped. This was the kind of job I'd been chasing since day one: code, collaboration, the thrill of being a key player in something innovative. I spent months preparing for it, sharpening skills, volunteering for more responsibilities, even stalking Lisa, our manager, but in a totally non-creepy way, just to understand what she wanted to see in candidates. I figured Jake would be rooting for me too, cheering me on from the sidelines. He had his own path, sure, mostly in design and product, but the idea of us both going for the same role? That never crossed my mind. I mean, we'd always shared everything, but the understanding was clear. This was my dream slot. I imagined us, like high-fiving when I got it, joking about how I finally beat him at something. The startup itself has a kind of family vibe. Bright open spaces, that inevitable smell of half-cold coffee, and folks who work hard but joke harder. Lisa's the type of manager who's sharp but fair, and she genuinely wants the best for the team. The lead dev role wasn't just a title, it meant leading projects, mentoring juniors, and having a seat at the table when big decisions happened. For me, it was a milestone and a stepping stone all rolled into one. But underneath that shiny surface, the workplace buzzed with this low hum of competition. People throwing their hats in the ring, subtle name-dropping, and the occasional side-eye when someone got too close to the prize. It wasn't nasty, or at least not outright, just that quiet tension everyone pretends isn't there. I thought Jake and I had steered clear of that mess. After all, best friends don't compete for the same thing, right? Then there was the little things, the moments that in hindsight felt like hints but I was too caught up to notice. Like Jake suddenly spending more time talking about development, digging into coding tutorials I shared like he was prepping for a test, or when he got all tight-lipped about a project he was working on but dodged my questions. It was subtle enough to dismiss. Friends have side projects, right? Nothing major. And yeah, a part of me was a little suspicious, but I shoved it under the rug. I mean, Jake had his own talents. Why would he want to muscle in on mine? And the weird part was how the office changed the closer the announcement got. I caught myself scanning the room more often, noticing who was chirping the loudest about leadership and who was suddenly more buddy-buddy with Lisa. It came with the territory. The lead dev role was a big deal, and ambition was the fuel that kept the startup rolling. Still, despite this low-level tension, I felt confident. I had my experience, my months of prep, and more than anything, my history with the team. I'd had those casual chats with Lisa, who'd hinted that someone with initiative and grit would get the nod. I thought I checked all those boxes. But the deeper we got into the hiring process, the more I realized some things were changing, lines blurring between personal and professional. Subconsciously, I started noticing the little cracks, like those awkward pauses when Jake slipped into the conversation about the role, or when he stared a little too long at the job post pinned on our internal board. I convinced myself that it was just nerves, or, hey, maybe even encouragement. But my gut whispered otherwise. And then, there was that day when Lisa called me in for a chat. Nothing heavy, she said, just a quick talk. But as I sat there overhearing Jake popping by for an unscheduled meeting with her earlier that week, I felt this twitch of doubt stir. Maybe things weren't exactly as transparent as they appeared. So yeah, when Jake's text came crashing through the noise like a bomb, I was not just blindsided, I was dizzy, like the floor had slipped out from under me. I kept flipping through every conversation, every laugh, every late-night code review session we'd had and wondering, where did we cross the line? When did my best friend become my competition? And more than that, why didn't he tell me? I couldn't believe it when I found out Jake had applied for the lead dev role. I mean, how does that even happen without a heads up? We'd been so close, so on the same page for so long that this felt like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just the job, it was the betrayal tangled up in it. The day I discovered the truth is burned into my memory. I was grabbing coffee in the break room, trying to clear my head after that text from Jake, when Lisa cornered me. "Hey, can we talk for a sec?" she asked, her tone casual but with that unmistakable edge that lets you know something's up. As we sat in her office, she gently dropped it on me. "Jake applied for the lead dev role. We just finished his interviews yesterday." My brain short-circuited. "Wait, what? Jake?" But he never said a word. Lisa shrugged, saying, "He's a strong candidate. Surprised you didn't know." Surprised was an understatement. I felt like I'd been left out of a game I thought I was playing with my best friend. Suddenly, countless little moments flashed through my mind. The furtive glances at the job posting, the intense prep sessions he never mentioned, the half answers about his project. It wasn't just a side hustle, it was a full-on secret mission to take the role I'd been dreaming about. That night, I called Jake. I was torn between wanting to throw a fit and needing to hear him out. When he answered, there was this nervous edge in his voice I hadn't expected. I went straight to the point. "Why didn't you tell me you applied? Why keep me in the dark?" Jake's silence spoke volumes before he finally said, "I didn't want to jeopardize our friendship. I thought maybe you wouldn't be okay with it, and yeah, I wanted the job too." That hit me harder than I wanted to admit. Of course he wanted it, who wouldn't, but the secret? That felt like a crack forming in the foundation of years of trust. I wanted to yell, to demand an explanation, but instead, I felt this weird tug-of-war inside me. Part of me clung to loyalty, reminding myself that Jake was still my best friend. The other part was fired up with ambition and the sting of being blindsided by someone I thought had my back. Over the next few days, every interaction with Jake felt charged with unsaid words. We'd sit at lunch pretending everything was fine, but underneath, I was tallying up every slight, every omission. And Jake? He seemed just as uncomfortable, often avoiding eye contact or changing the subject when the role came up. Then the call came. The official offer. Jake got it. I was stunned, a jumble of conflicting emotions crashing over me. It wasn't just disappointment, it was a mix of jealousy, hurt, and an odd sense of relief. Relief because I wouldn't have to wrestle with the uncertainty anymore. Hurt because this felt less like a professional competition and more like a personal betrayal. I found myself pacing my apartment that night, phone in hand, watching his name move from candidate to lead developer on the company chat with the flickering glow of disbelief. Did I confront him and risk shattering what was left of our friendship? Or do I quietly swallow the loss and pretend this wasn't one of those moments where everything changed? I was stuck on that decision, like someone dangling me just above the edge of a cliff. And honestly, I wasn't sure which jump would hurt less. The morning after Jake accepted the lead dev position, the office felt different, thicker somehow, like the air had been steeped overnight. I showed up, tried to play it cool, but every glance toward Jake sharpened the ache in my chest. He caught me staring once and gave a weak, almost guilty smile. That was it. The unspoken truce between us, broken but not fully shattered. I knew I couldn't just stuff this down and pretend. So, after work, I met Jake at our usual spot, a little dive bar that smelled like spilled beer and nostalgia. Sitting across from him, I realized I was nervously wringing my hands, and for once, I didn't have a witty comeback ready. "So, this is wild," I said, trying for casual but sounding anything but. "Didn't see this coming." Jake nodded, his eyes flickering with that familiar mix of regret and determination. "I know. I should have told you sooner. Honestly, I was scared. Scared of losing you, or that you'd think, I don't know, that I was trying to take your spotlight." "I guess I feel the same way," I admitted. "It didn't just hurt because you got the job. It stung because you didn't tell me. It felt like you went behind my back." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah, I get that now. I was trying to protect what we had, but maybe I ended up risking it more. Honestly, I thought I had to choose between the job and our friendship. It was a bad call." We sat in silence for a moment, the buzz of the bar filling the space between us. Then Jake looked up, eyes sincere. "I want this job, but not if it means losing my best friend. That's way bigger than any project or title." The relief that washed over me was almost physical. Maybe it was naive, but I clung to that hope. I told him, "Look, this changes things, yeah. But it doesn't have to end us. It just means we need new rules, more honesty, clear boundaries. Jake nodded, and I could see he was relieved. We agreed to be upfront, no more secrets, and to stop letting ambition mess with what mattered most, our friendship. Over the next weeks, working under Jake's lead was different. Sometimes awkward, sure, but also eye-opening. Jake wasn't perfect, but he was good at the job, pushing the team forward, including me. And I realized maybe some things could be bigger than ego, even the dream job. I also had to face some personal truths. That ambition can blind you, that loyalty isn't always simple, and that sometimes the people you trust most might surprise you in ways that hurt. But surprise doesn't always mean the end. In the end, we kept working, talking, and laughing like the old days, though with a bit more caution and a lot more honesty. So, I'm left wondering, when the people closest to us cross those lines, how do we decide what's salvageable and what's not? Because honestly, life and friendships aren't neat scripts. They mess up, twist, and sometimes they surprise you with the kind of forgiveness you least expect.